So if we can, I would love to talk to Miss Mary, if that's possible. I think she has a few things to say.
Indeed. This is a great platform.
And thank you again.
It is our great honor, dear one. All right, let's go get Miss Mary. Hello, dear ones. This is Mary.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for being here.
Such a delight.
Thank you so
It's a long time coming.
Yes.
And I wasn't a whore.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. As I always like to joke that you have very bad PR people. Your public relations has been pretty rough throughout the years. Can you explain a little bit of what your part was in Jesus's life, or Yeshua's life, and from the beginning of his ministry all the way to the end and then beyond? And what was your true part in this story, as opposed to the story that we have been told by the church and by the powers that be that wanted to diminish your part, if you will, in this story?
Yeshua healed me by his presence. And as any great master will do, he brought the light which allowed me to access my own light. And the despair that I had been feeling, and the grief that I had been feeling and going through, and the darkness that I had been overcome with the part of the ego, and as Jesus or the Bible would say, the 7 sins, right? I was diminished by them, but I got permission. He gave me permission. What he did for everyone is he gave everybody permission to not have to go through someone or something to find divine connection.
The opposite of the church.
Indeed. And it really was his intention to have everybody have this access and the church be built. He did want to create a church that was different than what he knew and how he was raised and how most people were brainwashed, because he wanted everybody to know that they too are the master of their life and that they could go direct to our Father.
So when did you meet Yeshua?
I was later in life. I was in my late 20s, and that's when I met him, and I immediately felt healed. And when he had 2 other disciples that were following him at the time, Thaddeus and John, and a different John, and I was the third to start following him. And we would go around and witness the miracles. I was there when he healed the leper, when he healed the person that had leprosy.
Well, Mary, let me ask you this. Wasn't it odd at that time for a woman to just be walking around with a bunch of dudes?
It was.
Yeah. So
yes.
how did that work?
My soul just had to go. The feeling that I had, it was more than just a teacher like Thaddeus and John had. There was an affinity that we had for each other. And as Matthew even said, and this did make it into the Bible and scriptures, that, Jesus loved Mary the most. He many times would kiss her on the mouth. Well, there was a reason for that, and I wasn't a whore. It was because we had that beautiful union that human beings get to have in their human bodies. When you're married and have been married a long time, when you have that affinity for someone and you have that connection for someone, you want to have the bodies also unite and have that union, because that is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, isn't it this kind of lie that has been told to us over the years that spiritual leaders, spiritual masters aren't supposed to have that?
Why?
They're supposed to be monks, or they're supposed to be, resign against everything.
And we know how that went with the Catholic Church.
Touché.
It's a physical need. Humans want to be touched. You want to be held. You want to, we have these organs not only to just make a baby, but to make a baby, what has to happen. The penis has to go into the vagina, and there's pleasure that is had when that happens.
I always found it fascinating that there is so much pleasure in that.
Indeed.
And yet that's very dirty. That's very nasty. I'm like,
Why?
well, why? Yeah, why? Why would God?
Because someone said so.
Right, because someone else was, for whatever reason they were dealing with it.
It's control and manipulation for the same reason that, no, it wasn't just me. There were 5 other women that were following Jesus.
Really? I didn't know that. So who are the other?
Tamar, and there was all these other Marys.
I heard about the Marys, yes.
Everybody was named Mary, but there was
Mary,
Tamar,
Mary,
and there was other Marys, including
Mother
Mary, who was just the kindest, loving, most nurturing soul of a person.
So as you're going through the ministry, and please correct me if I'm wrong, did you help Yeshua with his ministry? Because from what I understand, you came from a family of money.
We did.
Yeah, and you actually helped finance. Is that true?
It is true. It is true. And here's the thing. It wasn't just Jesus that would go out. He gave the power to his apostles, to the disciples, to have the same power as him. And that's what his message was. There's a group in France, and that was all over Europe, and they were called the Cathars. And the Cathars were the true descendants, if you will, of the teaching. And they did what Jesus wanted everyone to do, and that was to go out 2 by 2. We would go out together. It wasn't just, there were moments when it was just Yeshua, but what he wanted us to do is to go out 2 by 2 and to be feminine and masculine so that you would have both sides of it. And so the Cathars, they really followed that tradition further than anybody did. And it was always a feminine and a masculine that would go out together and spread the word of love and forgiveness and creation.
It's everything I can do, you can do and more. The kingdom of heaven is within you. These are the core teachings.
Exactly.
Of Yeshua.
Yes.
So as you're going through this time, which was short, it wasn't long. It was
very short.
It was very short, the time. So you were in your 20s. At what point in his ministry? Well, he was already on his ministry. Yes. He was already moving forward. You just jumped in early, essentially.
Yes. We were one of his earlier followers.
Yes, it was earlier followers. And Mary was always there, the Mother Mary.
Yes, always
was there as well. As you were going through this, you were a witness to what he was doing.
Yes.
Arguably closer than anybody else.
Indeed.
Even more than his mother.
Indeed.
When he started to get, from what I understand, he was a troublemaker, quote unquote.
Well, he knew he had a mission.
Right.
And he was true to that mission. He was true to his father.
Right.
And it didn't matter what the opposition was or what nobody else wanted him to do. The light within him needed to be expressed. And he was one that never would ever for anyone dim his light. And that commitment is what just enlivened him.
So as the opposition became stronger in his ministry, because I was saying he was called a troublemaker. He was kicked out of many towns. He was, he would go wherever, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Because it was blasphemy what he was saying the eyes of the
flipping the table over and that whole thing. He was in danger many times, physical danger. People were like, no, we got to kill this guy.
Yes.
Because that was a time where people were killing left and right. Not that much has changed in today's world. How did you deal with this on not only a spiritual level, but on a woman watching her man, a wife watching her husband, and we'll talk about the husband and wife thing in a minute, go through this? Because it's one thing, if anything happens to my wife, if she's sick, if she's ill, if she's injured, it really hurts me. Same thing with children as well, but specifically with my spouse. I can't imagine what you went through. And also at a time where and please correct me if I'm wrong.
I was hunted.
Not only hunted, but you were, livestock had more respect than women got in many places. Is that correct?
That is absolutely true. It is absolutely true.
So how did you deal with that?
as we want to bring, because you were asking, this energy of the divine feminine has been coming through for the past couple of decades now, and it's now stronger than ever. And the reason is because the female, in what we all learn from Jesus, is that we are human. So even though he was this Messiah, he was so angry that he turned over the tables and he did all that. He was human. And there's that human tendency to bypass or to not allow or to suppress, right? Even what we were talking about, the sexuality of what a human wants, right? And so the human emotions, we had to feel them. We couldn't run away from them. And I had to escape and cry and feel the piercing of the pain, because it was out of our control. We knew we were the rebel makers or the troublemakers, because we were opposing what needed to be said and what had to come to light. But there was no other way to do that, because if you have the contrast and the untruth and then the truth comes out, there are some that are not going to like it. Right? You always have humans. You all have your own human brains and your own ways of interpreting things. You and Council were just talking about AI and how it's an individual perspective. All of us dealt with it very differently. How I dealt with it is I knew that I was still alive. And so I had to, in absolute respect and reverence for him, my beloved, and for our Father, for that his will be done. And it was the time that a new perspective, the Council talks about being an energy master. And Yeshua was the ultimate energy master. He knew who he was and he knew his mission, and he wouldn't let anything stop him, even opposition from the truth that he was speaking. And so because I believe so deeply, and my life changed, and all of the people that we saw the miracles happening with, this truth couldn't be squashed anymore.
To watch the full video, click on the link below, and don't forget to subscribe.